Happy Friday, everybody. I am
Woohoo!
feeling all juiced up and fired up and all the things. And I did prior to jumping on this show, but then I talked to my beautiful friend Yanko, who I haven't seen face to face in 2 weeks, and then my amazing soul sister Gail. So it's going to be a party. If you guys don't know, I'm Kerri Lewis, and I am the duo with Yanko Yankov, and we show up every Friday at 10 a.m. for no particular reason.
That's right.
And we also have a reoccurring third co-host when she's able to join Miss Gail Craft.
Hey!
So woo!
Yahoo!
I love it.
Hello, everybody. Hello. You see how well I'm prepared for this? I totally forgot we were going to join, and I was just going to watch you guys, and then when you sent the link, I went, yes!
Oh no, yeah, always welcome. Listen, you could be the third co-host anytime you want, from now until whenever me and Yanko decide that this is no
But
longer fun. But I think
yeah,
it's always going to be fun.
Of
you,
course.
you don't have to be prepared. You just bring your energy with, and that's enough.
It's because it's for no particular reason. I have
Yes.
my coffee. I'm ready to go.
You know, something.
Same as me.
Me too. Listen, to see here. So here's the thing, Yanko. I was going to tell you. I was going to ask you, and since I want an accountability partner for something, and
Oh,
it's.
are we making skulls?
No, that's me. But anyway, we'll talk
I mean,
offline.
Halloween, it's right around the corner, so I don't know.
Listen, skulls are my jammy jam. No, but anyway, so I want to talk about, so Yanko and I were talking offline about connection. So for those of you who don't know, I love to put people in touch with each other. But something he said had me ruminating. And I want you guys' thoughts, ideas about the word threat and how that relates to an experience that we have with another person.
How so?
So, Gail, you and I, and Yanko, we all do very similar things. At the end of the day, you break down what we do, and it's shared differently. The language is different, but it's the same thing. None of us feel threatened by each other's presence. In fact, I would say, I can only speak for myself, I feel empowered because that tells me that I'm attracting aligned, high vibrational people that are doing similar work that I can tap on if I feel like, oh, maybe I don't know how to break through to this person, whatever. However, I think particularly in all areas of our life, we end up engaging with people where we feel small or we feel threatened because they do something similar as us or whatever the story is. How do you guys navigate that energy when you experience it? Because we all do. Let's keep it real. We do.
So I have a story for you.
I love my
So
stories.
so here I am. I'm a brand new coach, right? I'm in this meeting with a bunch of like-minded women, and there's another coach on at the table, and I immediately feel that she thinks I'm a threat, right? And there's this tension, and I'm like, WTF? What's that all about?
Yeah.
So she ran an event that it is the essence of you, and I joined the event. So she asked, why did you join my event? Of course, thinking I want to steal her process. And I looked at her and I said, I want to support you any way I can. And during that event, that's exactly what I did. And it's hilarious what happened. Her and I, in fact, she's the one who gave me some of the nutritional things I could use during cancer and chemo.
Yeah.
Right. So we took that conflict, which could have ended up in horrible situations because we were part of the same female women's group. And it turned it around to, yeah, she does want to support me.
Yeah.
Right. So
And,
it, go ahead.
I hate, I know this is an old paradigm, but for all of you guys out there who the division that was created for women against women, because if women come together, forget about it. And way back in religious times, I won't say the religion, there was a persecution of women, and it was purposefully created to keep women divided. And so I think that's another piece that I've encountered a lot throughout my whole life, is just because I'm a woman engaging with another woman, whether it's within the organizations that I was part of in corporate America or in coaching or whatever, there was that immediate sense of like protection. I got to protect myself. And I, like you, Gail, understood probably like 10 years ago that my role was to edify, to like constantly affirm
Right.
and to highlight the gifts that I see in anybody, not just women. But
Mhm.
in doing so, eventually that like defense starts to come down, and then there's real connection. But it does take time in certain instances, and because of just our fear-based world that we exist in, it's staying true to love and knowing that eventually love's always going to win out.
So I shared with you a Venus exercise that totally broke down any walls. And it can be done with men as well, but when women get together and do this particular exercise, it's an opportunity to learn how we nurture one another and how to receive from one another,
Mhm.
right? Without any barriers. And I think, you know, so my experience, I don't want to say I think, I don't want to project and make up stories. So my experience has been men and women both come to me. I used to think that I was a coach for women, and yet men kept showing up. I have some masculine energy that attracts men as well, right?
Well, we all do, and
We,
and sometimes you need that lesson to be like, okay, you're not just this, you're everything else.
that's correct. That's correct. And what I discovered is we all have the same problems, guys. We all have the same concern, guys. Men are concerned about their role confusion. Women are confused about their role. Men are angry about what's changing in the world. Women are angry about what's changing in the world. Men can't communicate to women. They don't understand who they are. Women can't communicate to men. There's no difference in the problems. How they're manifested is different, but the root is the same. We are the same, guys.
I love that you said that, because I, like you, attract male clients, and I, like you, I think our gift is that we are very tapped into both our energies, feminine and masculine, and we
Very
can
balanced.
flow in
Mhm.
between them where and when needed. Um, and and I talk extensively about the fact that, I don't get me wrong, I love my women. Women keep growing, keep expanding, keep building. But when the narrative says women power, all you're doing is pendulum shifting the energy that didn't work in the masculine over into the masculine coming from women, and we're not recognizing that every single person has to heal. And to your point, you're spot on. Men feel like they have to be the provider, the caretaker, the blah blah blah. Women feel like they have to be the nurturer, the selfless person. But it's the same thing. It just, to your point, manifests differently. So I love that you highlighted that. That's beautiful.
Any act that we take as a human that causes division, any act that separates me for whatever reason from you causes conflict, not healing
Yep.
for any reason.
Yep.
Right. And we are in a world of conflict and we don't understand. We keep trying to pull together by creating even more division and subdivisions and subdivisions. We're going in the wrong direction. Where's the commonality in the human race, not
Yeah,
the division?
I love that.
Yeah.
And for anybody out there who's curious, I totally shared your Venus exercise with Nana, and I was like, "Oh, babe, we totally gotta play with this." And let's just say, if you want to deepen your connection with yourself, because it inspires curiosity within yourself, it inspires vulnerability within yourself, inspires um energetic movement, and also deep and really meaningful connection, reach out to Gail. You will not be disappointed.
I've got a
And,
million of them, honey, but you look at you turning red. That's so cute.
Hey, I'm not red. Listen, if you know me, I mean, I have a body and I like to use it. That's just what I'm saying.
now, I'm getting curious. What is that about?
We'll talk about it offline because it is going to be part of a talk about collaboration
Uh-huh.
that Kerri and I are working on. It is definitely going to be one of the exercises we're going to do in that event. We'll modify it a bit, I'm sure, but it's going to be miraculous.
It will be. So back to the question at hand. Yanko,
Yes.
talk to me about.
Can I add something before we shift to that, and I'll circle back automatically to
Yeah,
it.
do it.
I was just gonna say that this whole division starts because people don't remember who they are. This is the whole thing. Like, you can't tell people stop dividing, look outside, and they're not gonna find that outside. They have to go within to find out who they are, and then that'll be the byproduct of like understanding that there's no division. If you go and connect with your deeper self, you might find very interesting things that might come out and shock you, and you might be on shock and say, well, that's not me, and then the whole thing starts to crack from over there. you
Yes,
know and
absolutely.
and that was my thing that I wanted to add to that conversation, because telling people, go, don't divide, don't do this, to me, that's meaningful, like meaningless, sorry. Like, you can just go and pretend, and now I'm gonna pretend to be goody goody and this and that, and it's not gonna happen. Like,
Mhm.
unless you know deep down inside that you're one with everything, and everything comes around, and maybe you being a and because we're both having the same female and male energies inside and everything, that's not a strange thing that occurs. People, I do past life regressions. I take people back to previous lives where they're being a man, they're being a child, they're being a woman, they're being a villain, they're being a hero, all kinds of stuff. We keep going through those things. y-
You
you
know,
know
I love it. I love it. I do a soul realignment work, and part of that is past lives, energetic statements that you're still holding on to in this life that we
hmm
want to put back where they belong and not
hmm
have them affect
right.
this experience that we're in. I do want to say it was interesting. I was speaking with someone the other day, and they talked about the difference with my approach to healing and another person's approach to healing. His approach is, look inside, get deep with the pain, and and that's very valuable. And I've done that. My approach is let source come in and do the healing. How do you connect with who you are and let that do the healing, right? And push the pain to where it belongs, right? They're both valuable. They both work. They're both like, I can't do the soul thing unless someone has also already done that work with you,
Right.
right? It's like I'm phase 2, if you will.
But that's what comes around when we started this whole conversation, that we're all doing the same thing, but we're doing it differently because we're having a different human experience.
Correct.
So we attract like-minded people that might resonate with how I do it, and some people will resonate with how you do it, and that's just how life is, and things go around. Nothing wrong with that.
No, and I like a little column A, a little column B, and a little column C. You don't have to choose, right? So
Yep.
back to threat. Why did you bring up threat and connection?
Oh,
You,
me?
Yanko. You bet.
Me? Yeah,
No,
you.
Yanko, you're the one who brought it up.
No, I brought it up, but I did bring it up because it was part of a conversation we had
Well,
offline.
yeah,
You started.
we had that conversation a little bit, and I don't I'm kind of the same thing. I see the value in people. I don't see him as like this mindset of like winners losers. It's not in my my identity anymore, like,
Mm.
because once you understand that you're part of the whole, there is no um and there is enough from everything. There is no like I have to be the winner, I have to put others down to be able to fight with life and get business and do this. Is like, no, this is actually the harder way to do it. It's easier when you have people that support you, people that are in your life to help you and support you grow and get to where you're going. So to
Oh,
me,
I
Go
to
ahead,
me,
Kerri. We're
yeah,
both
go
like,
ahead.
yes. Well, two things. One, Yanko, I agree. I saw a bumper sticker like 2 months ago when I went on a 2-minute rant on Facebook about it because it says teach peace. And I'm like, how do you teach peace if you don't know peace? So I totally get what you're saying in terms of division. But I do think it's really important that we highlight for people that it is not going to shift or change until we recognize that we are all collectively going through the same struggles and the same narratives. But something you just said that like reminded me of a conversation I had earlier today. So today must have been chatty Cathy Kerri at the gym because I talk to like so many people. When I feel their energy, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go introduce myself to you. So I'm already feeling good, and I go up to the front desk to leave. And the manager I know is working to join the police force. And so he's been working to like change up his diet and get into fitness and stuff. And so he started to talk to me about how, he totally fell off and then he just realized that he just can't do these things and whatever. Like very, very much like he has to do it on his own. And I said, dude, what, like, how I've been successful by recognizing what I do really well and then collecting people to help me with what I don't do really well. It's not about figuring it out or saying, okay, I'm just going to be bad at this the rest of my life and I have to live with it. No, it's like, okay, this is not my zone of genius. And I'm going to tap into Yanko and be like, Yanko, we can have a great show, but the tech part is all you, or we ain't going to have a show. And it's totally that. And I think when you come from a place of love and not threat, you recognize that not only are you able to lift up the others and the gifts and the skills and the things that they do, but it unintentionally they lift you up. And I'll give you a really quick example before I give this back to you. Yesterday, I randomly out of whatever, I'm inspired, I make a song. I click my record, I'm like for 3 minutes. And I'm like, oh, the message that came out is super cool. I'm gonna send it to my clients. And then I sent it to this amazing lady, Miss Gemma Gorkoff. And so fast forward 10 hours later, I had clients, I did all my stuff. Gemma went into Canva, created piano behind the song and put down the lyrics. And I'm like, and that is what connection and love creates. Is it's not about needing to own it all for you. It's about giving, because as you give, so shall you receive.
Sharing your excitement with others. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I want to get back to the winner loser thing that you brought up, Yanko. Again, we're talking division. And my philosophy says if I want to win, that means I have to accept that I am going to hurt someone because they're going to lose, right? If I want to win, now that doesn't mean I don't want to be successful. Back in the day when I was a business coach, because I started off doing
Me
what
too.
yeah, knowing what I know. Um, Clients would come to me and we'd be building their plan. And I would say, oh, so you're going to create yet another CRM that exists in the world. which means you are not going to attract new clients. You are going to be stealing clients from someone else. So you either have to be super duper better and have lots of money for marketing, or you need to change your product. What is unique? I'll give you an example. Back in before 200, let's just say, I was working with some people who wanted to build their own business. And this was when imaging was coming into the businesses, and they wanted to be part of that, and it already existed. So what we did instead was looked at their capabilities and looked at their skills. I went, oh, there's a gap in the process. The companies that are selling imaging do not want to train and do not want to load the backload of paper into the system. Neither does the customer have capacity or time. There's a gap, which at that time was unique for you to partner with these imaging firms and support their sales by offering this as well. Bam. What's unique about what you have to offer? And you have to know your capabilities. You have to know yourself, Yanko, right? Getting back to, if you don't know yourself, right? That's your product. Your product, like my product isn't coaching. My product is Gail,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
right? Right?
But
And
but
I,
the
go
other
ahead.
wonderful thing, that's going to happen is that once you get in the journey, if you don't have that rigid mindset of like it's got to get done this way, and because people told me so and everything, like you said, you pivot, you go with the flow, things are coming, opportunities, everything unveils, and you feel like fixed mindset, then you're gonna miss the point. You're not even gonna see it as opportunity. So in my mind, it's kind of a tricky thing, and if you're on the flow, you're just gonna you pivot, you're gonna grab what you need, you're gonna learn out of it, and you're gonna get to the point where you're supposed to go. So there's no good or bad or this and that, and it's just like a one happening. You just have to let it happen.
Do you even pivot when you're in flow? I don't even think I've ever pivoted. And I'm
Well, not when
completely
you not
different.
when you're in flow, but like
Yeah.
say you're designing a new product or you're looking for something and you're service orientated, and you're doing the product and you had an idea, you had an inspiration, but then maybe your target market was different or something else, and as you keep going, this idea starts to take a form, and you're pivoting here and there, but you're still staying on the idea, but you're still on flow. That's what I meant. Like not like a huge like a change and say today I'm gonna start designing something else instead of CRMs. I'm gonna be designing computer tables. Totally different thing.
Well, I'm going to bring this conversation back to connection and threat and trust. Okay. One of the things that I advise clients to do who are building something new is to create their board of directors. These are people that you are connected with, who you trust, who you can sit down with your idea and bang out a plan and an approach. And I'll give you an example of women who did this, and we're going back to 2009. This woman who I joined her group, Felina Hansen, created Hera, HERA Hub. It is a co-working space specifically for women. She had a board of directors, all women, to talk about what do you want to see in that environment. They created their rules. Has to be spa-like, has to be completely supportive. And they had programs available. That is where I learned to be an entrepreneur. I joined a co-working place that had meetings every week where if I wanted to sell something or if I wanted investors, I could practice and the women would give me feedback. It was unbelievable. Again, Kerri, the power of women when they get together and trust one another to support each other in their connection. And she, in turn, have helped others in that group develop their business.
Yeah.
That's a mastermind.
And it goes to, but so this is, I'm going to circle back and pull Yanko. It goes to learning to trust yourself, though. And I think that is so
Yeah.
fundamental, because if you don't trust yourself, you don't know how to trust anybody else, really, truly. And so it's Lao Tzu who talks about, trust the, he uses good people and trust the bad people. And I don't identify with that label, but it's discernment. So I trust myself to walk into a space and say, I'll do business with Gail. Yup. And then I also trust myself and be like, that coach, phenomenal person, I'm not touching them with a 10-foot pole. And not judging, but trusting myself to, one, not make up a story. And that's super
Right.
important too, because so often we're like, oh my God, that person's good, that person's bad. No, we have no idea. And I don't need to know. I just need to trust who I am and what feels right for me in this moment. It could just literally be timing. In a year from now, I could totally connect with that person and it could be magic. It's just timing, not for me right now. And in doing that, that is where you build immense trust and connection with others, which is why Yanko and I could easily be like, yeah, come join our show, or maybe not, or, and for no other reason than we just trust our intuition and what feels right for us in this moment.
Okay, I love that. Yanko, you got such a big smile on your face.
Well, I have a secret to unveil. We had a technical issues at the beginning with our streaming services, and I just realized that the banner that was running underneath was still announcing the all time. So that's why I'm smiling. I'm just like smiling at myself. I'm not realizing that, which is amusing.
Well, wait a minute, that goes to flow and trust, right? So
Right,
Yanko was like, do, Kerri, this stream's not working. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go to the other one. He's like,
right.
I'll let Gail know. And that's the thing is, you know, when you trust yourself, there's no anxiety. Honest to God, there isn't. I'm with Gail. Like, for example, even today, right? This one of the gentlemen I was working that I started the gym. He's been all over my social media, him and his wife, for separate businesses for like years. I've never met this person in person. Just, I show up on feeds. He should, and I saw him. I'm like, oh shit! I trusted immediately. I'm like, I'm gonna walk up and say hi. And it folded into this gorgeous conversation, which will then unfold into interviews and all the things. And it's just because I trust myself so much. I'm like, oh, that's a good vibe. I'm gonna roll in, and that's what I know for myself. I really work with my clients to foster, is because when you trust yourself, you can make make a song, having never gone to music school, never studied music, don't know how to read, and just say, I'm gonna send it because it felt good for me, and whoever likes it, great. Whoever doesn't, great. But it felt good for me, and that's the power of trust, and that's why it's so important for me personally to bear witness to people as they give themselves permission to learn themselves. And when you learn yourself, you trust yourself and you're able to do things you wouldn't have otherwise dreamed of doing.
But that goes back to the same thing I was saying. Like, if you go within to find out who you are, what you actually want from life, is this like, because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and there's a lot of habitual stuff that goes on. Maybe and there's also programming out there, like mass advertising, when there's like, click now, buy now, do this and that, and they're hijacking your attention when you're like in a vulnerable spot, and your thinking mind, it's centered in something, and then all of a sudden you hear something in the radio and it says, follow us on social media, click here and like us, subscribe, and do this and that, and that goes on, and it just happens. So a lot of the desires, it's at least like personally, when I find that I want something, I really have to sit with that, not like act right away, but I want to sit with that and see, like, is there is this like a habitual thing that just happens, or is this like it's gonna go somewhere? Is it even gonna be a fruitful thing that's gonna bring some benefit out of the whole thing? So yeah, it just goes with like starting to do like a self observation, and when you get to a certain point, then a lot of things are going to fall off, and you're just going to be like, yeah. Because to go back to what Kier was saying, the sun doesn't come in and says, I'm going to shine on the earth because people are going to love me and do this and that. No, it just does what it does. So Carrie does the same thing. Carrie does what it does. She does a song. If somebody likes it, doesn't like it, that's their problem, and it goes with everything else.
And I'm gonna keep it real. So I send love to a lot of people. At one point, like a year ago, just randomly, I counted, and it was in hundreds. And I'm talking about just if I'm and I'm actually going to share a trick with everybody. When I was in super anxiety or when I was in judgment of myself, I know that as you extend love, love comes back. So one of the hacks that I leaned into years ago was I would send love to people that I would think about, and I would, whatever came to mind, I love you, or a message that resonated with me, whatever, really as a hack to get my own personal energy up. That's what I did, right? I would get hate. I got so much hate. I was attacked.
Wow.
And I really had to sit with that. And I'm like, whoa, like, because there was no ulterior motive. There was anything. Now, granted, fast forward years later, that could have been me burning off karma. That could have been a million things that I don't even care. But it was staying grounded, and it was a gift because I'm like, if I can stay steadfast in love, not make up a story of why they're sending me hate, not make up a story about me being bad, knowing that I'm coming from a place of love, that's enough. And that was the greatest gift I gave myself without knowing, because it was when I was sharing love and receiving hate, I learned, well, you're damned if you do. Well, I mean, I've learned that many times, but it was a reminder that I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. So I'm just going to show below. And as long as I'm having a good time, that's all that matters. And as I've continued to grow, I've shed that hate. Like I don't really experience hate, but I get a whole hell of a lot of love. I get a lot of love.
And I'm one of them that sends it to you. I want to circle back to a couple of things. I've been making notes as the two of you have been talking because I don't want to interrupt the flow.
See, but this is a good conversation, though.
Right, I
Everything
know,
just
like, what?
rolls. We're
No, no,
having
no.
so much fun.
So, first of all, I want to talk about um, when I've gotten to the point of where I'm at, shall we say. Um, I am feeling so disconnected from people, but not in a bad way. Right? I am observing, and I call it like I'm circling the globe. I'm not in the globe. I'm circling the globe, and I'm observing, and I'm observing stories being told again and again and again, like year after year after year. It's like, oh my goodness, aren't they sick of that story? Right? And just like the pain again, aren't they sick of staying in that pain? Not saying anything, but just like hurting for them, if you will, hurting for what I'm observing, and wanting to to help. But as you know, Kerri, I am a projector. You have to come to me. I cannot go to you. Right? That's just how it is. I can offer that I'm out there, but you have to come to me. So that's one thing, is that I'm circling. I love the hijack analogy, Yanko. I feel that way all the time when I'm disrupted. And I've even thought, how dare you disrupt my flow of thought? How dare you? Right? And that, so I shut down my emails. I shut down when I'm in the flow. I have to, because how dare you interrupt this flow that God is giving to me? Right? Um, and then being reacting to negative comments, Kerri. I can remember the first time I got slammed on Facebook, and I still do. A friend of mine said, "You've hit the big time, Gail.
Yep.
You've hit the big time when people want to diss what you have to say." And now I look at those and I think, what pain are they in, right? That they feel the need to discredit my experience, because I only put my experience out there. I don't, if I haven't experienced it, I don't talk about it. So how can you say that no, this didn't happen when it's my experience,
Yeah.
right? And so I just, again, I look at people as though, you know, I could help them, Kerri, you could help them, Yanko, you could help them find themselves and find their love and their trust within, and then that pain would go away.
But as a bright, wise woman said to me,
Don't
Gail
take away their
Pratt,
candy.
don't take away their candy. Don't take it. And that's, again, I mean, really being able, and I'm going to tell you, it took me a really, really long time to understand the difference between observation and judgment. Because for a really long time, I really was observing without judging, but I was judging myself for the observation.
Yes.
And that was so hard for me. I'm like, but wait a minute. Is this like truly what I like? Because I mean, the two of you know, there's a knowing, right? Like you just freaking I just read this book about Meister Eckhart, and the guy goes, I know that I know that I know that I know that I know, but when I try to tell you that I know, I don't have any words. It's that knowing. And
Yes.
yet I would judge the crap out of myself. I'm like, oh my God, like what's wrong with you, Kerri? And then I realized, oh my God, that's just observation. And in particularly my family, I would observe, and I would once in a while personalize. And fortunately, I have this wonderful friend, Gail Kraft and Yanko, because they both challenged me in different ways. But Gail specifically said to me one day, "You're trying to take away their candy, Kerri, and you can't." And I'm like, you're right. And I know that when it comes to clients, meaning I will not work with somebody who thinks I'm doing the work for them. Like I tell them, this is work. You going to be working. And if you're not ready for the work, I'm not your coach. But when it comes to family, I need those reminders still to this day sometimes, because you're more like in that dynamic. And so it's just, oh yeah, that's their journey, and I'm gonna love them, and I'm gonna love myself, and wherever it unfolds is where it's meant to unfold.
So I'm going to
See,
share a personal story on that, and then Yanko, I'll give this back to you. And I won't say who because that's not fair. But I was in the triangle, the victim, savior, perpetrator triangle. When you get trapped in that, I couldn't find my way out. I finally found my way out. And the other person's observation was that I'm disconnected now. And I thought, from their perspective, true, but I'm not playing that game anymore. And so they were angry for a while. That person is now flying in their life. They are succeeding beyond my expectations because I left them alone.
Yep.
I let them learn their own lesson without me trying to save them and protect them and make it a softer landing. There's no landing if you make it softer.
well, no,
So,
if you play that game, there's no end to it. You're just you're in a loop. There's
oh,
no end of it. But
yeah,
I'm glad you caught that, because that happened to me too. Like when I disconnected, that person was like, "But why? But why? But why?" Like like trying to like get you back in the loop. Like,
yes.
"Oh, you're not getting away. We're not done yet." You know what I mean? So I know that very well. So yeah, but unfortunately that's how things are for now, and those are the experiences some people need to have.
Well, I won't say no one saved me from my experiences, but every time that I allowed that to happen, it backfired. So, I was a stubborn, I can do it on my own type person anyway. Like, I'll
Yeah,
show
me
you.
too.
I'll show
Yeah,
you. I'll
yeah.
show you. F you. I'll show you. I could do this. I don't need you. Right. So, and that's completely opposite of who I am now. It's like, yeah, I want to connect. I want to collaborate. I don't want to be on my own anymore. I want to work
But
with people.
but see how that works, like the pendulum. You're this way, and now you're like, oh, I want to be on this side. But then in a while, you'll be like, no, but this is boring. I want to go on the other side and see what was that about.
Now
And
I'm
then
going
you're
to do a
going
little
like,
column A and
oh,
column
I
B.
forgot how this was. I don't like it, and you go right back at the other side. And that's the thing, and that's why I'm thinking
Yeah.
like, you take that energy because it's energy after all, and you can suppress it, you can mold it. If, like Kerri was saying, if you stop judging, then you start judging the other side. You know what I mean? You either push it that way or that way. It's the duality of the world and everything. The only way, it's the middle way. Like, you sit on the middle, you're not doing the one or the other, you're just like not swinging as much, you're just like right in the right spot. So that's what I wanted to add, like earlier.
Okay, so my thing is the universal law of polarity. You can't
Hmm.
have one without the other. You
That's
guys
right.
have seen this, seen me do this. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. What if I took this line and I made it a circle? Because that's what goes on. You do it around and around. Well, what
Hmm.
if I took that circle and twisted it once? Well, now you have the sign of infinity. And when you hit the
Hmm.
middle, that's what you're talking about,
Hmm.
right? Hit the middle. When you take a look at our energy field, it starts right here. That's everything is right here. Creation, everything is right in the middle, right? Your heart is right in the middle, right? That's where that energy has come from. So that is what we're going through, is this cycle. And when I recognize that, I'm okay with wherever I am on the cycle.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah.
Yep. And
That's right.
so so for a brief synopsis and to make it maybe a little bit more palatable or absorbable for people who are like, you know,
That's too woo.
essentially, Gail, Yanko, and myself, we all have moments of fear. We all have moments of threat. We all have moments of insecurity. We all have moments. They're just smaller. So instead of going whoop 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 whoop, it's like mew, mew. And for me, I can't speak for them, but I can tell you honestly, it doesn't last more than
A nanosecond.
yeah, it's like a microcosm, and it's not that I'm not going through it. It's just that I have learned myself so much. I'm so aware of myself, and I'm also aware of the habits, behaviors, and patterns of the world too. All of the like universal fears that are being shared and universal stories that we've all bought into and all that. And then I just have so much evidence stacked up that reminds me, oh yeah, that was an illusion. That's silly. And I come back. And so, I think that's important to highlight for people because, and I was just talking to somebody at the gym today about this. Um, we want people to you want to be relatable. And I know that all three of us have the ability to relate with you because even if we don't live in that story, suffering, insecurity, threat, often we still experience the micro moments of it. So we are able to tap in, tune in, and hold space for you as you get curious about it and give yourself permission to break free from those old paradigms, those old habits, beliefs, and all of the fun stuff that we all get to navigate in this infinity where we're going back to the middle.
Oh my God, am I experiencing this again? Oh my God, I can't believe this is coming up again, right? I
Yeah,
will add to
it'll come in many times.
right. We just learned how to deal with it differently.
Yeah.
I want to say that one of the things I've observed about myself lately is that when I try to rationalize my instinct, the universe starts yelling at me. Right? I'll give you an older example, and I won't talk about what's going on right this minute, but I know that I'm rationalizing myself out of the instinct and I need to stop. Um, so, I started this process a year ago called chemo, and my hair was coming out in clumps. And My daughter was not comfortable being the person to shave my head. And so I'm like, oh my God, now what am I going to do? I'm not going to go to a hairdresser, to a stranger to do this. A friend of mine on, chat is saying, Gail, I used to be a hairdresser. It'd be an honor for me. The universe gives me this woman. I say, oh, no, no, I got this. I walk away and I hear, you ask for something, we give it to you, and you say no. And I stopped and I went, oh my goodness. I mean, how blatant is that? So I go back and I said, listen, I changed my mind if you're still up for it. It was the most beautiful, loving, caring experience. She was amazing, amazing. And she was the one who was supposed to be the one to do this for me. Right. So there's no judgment that my daughter couldn't do it at all because the right person was waiting for me all along.
Mhm.
This is what happens when you learn to listen.
Yep.
Right. And so I'm reminding myself, learn to listen,
Yep.
Gail, and stop rationalizing and just do it.
Yeah, I don't get that yelling inside. Sometimes I do, but just the other day I was going to pick up meds from the pharmacy, and I have this feeling like as I'm driving to the parking lot, there's this drive-through, and I don't do drive-throughs, but I had this feeling that I have to do drive-through. But then I'm thinking, no, I can use the steps to like get me in shape and this and that and everything. I walk in, I go on, and they shut it right in the front of my face. If I was in the drive-through, I could have picked up what I was going to pick up, but they're just like, nope, we're going and break. What are you gonna come back? Let's see, in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm like, great. So, you know, things happen like that. But
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. I was
Well,
gonna
Kerri was talking about the knowing, right? The knowing, and that's taking action without thinking.
right. But when you think, that's what happens.
Like me and Gail, I literally just like me and you. I'm like, hey, Gail, want to collaborate? And she's like, yeah, we should collaborate, right? And then again, guys, knowing what I'm willing to do, what I'm not willing to do, we jump on a call. I'm like, yeah, I don't do PowerPoints. I'm not. I can find us a venue. I can talk. I'm new. But and it's being okay with what you have to offer and not willing to bend. Because if Gail said, hey, Kerri, I need you to help me put together this presentation I'd have been like, tap out. I'm not doing it. And truth be told, that's why I've ended other shows, because the minute it feels like it's gonna be something that causes me resistance, I'm not gonna do it. Now,
Yeah.
that's not to say I'm not constantly growing and expanding. That's different. But when I know that I'm not growing and expanding and it's not fun for me, if it's not fun for me, I'm not doing it. And that to me is just knowing. I just know it doesn't have to make sense. I didn't have to have a plan. Gail could have said no, and I wouldn't have been like it would have been fine. It would have been completely perfect, because I know that what's meant for me is gonna present itself, and what's not won't. And I do want to circle back on something, because I think this is important for parents. I'm really gonna encourage parents here right now. I was talking to a client recently who went through a divorce, now has a new relationship, trying to blend families. And this client was sharing with me how they were forcing their kid to take part in these family events. Anytime you force anything, to you guys' point, you don't you don't allow them to experience the journey. And so what I experienced with Julia and Billy, my daughters, I didn't force anything. If they wanted to meet Nana, they got to meet Nana. If they didn't want to meet Nana, they didn't meet Nana. And one of my daughters refused to engage with him for 8 months. And they are the closest that, they're like best friends. It's ridiculous. And it's because I never forced anything. I allowed my children, who really aren't my children, but the gifts that I've been presented to nurture and honor and hold space for as they get curious in their journey, I gave them permission to honor themselves in whatever moment they were having. And in doing so, yeah, there were some bumps and bruises. Yep, they missed out on some amazing times with us. Sure did. But guess what? They needed that journey to come back to themselves, to discern for themselves what felt right for themselves, to come into our new family dynamic feeling safe, seen, empowered, and with the ability to honor themselves in a new situation. I'm very passionate about this, people, because the kids,
I
man.
know, but I might throw people off the bus again if I say that there's no you, and then and that's why I was like, that's right. Like they're
Right.
not your children. You don't possess
Right.
anything. You come in the way you come in, and the same way you go out of this world. There's no mind this, mind that. If you get in that mindset that you're sharing everything with everything, like this isn't my cup. This is just a cup that it's giving me this experience right now. And same with everything else, sharing space with people. That's what it means to me to share space with people. You share the experience, you sit in their pain and everything, and you share that. And then that gives you the knowing and understanding of what those people are going through, or how is this going. So that's just how it is. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought this up.
It's
And I mean, no, like to shut down your experience and say that's not a valid experience.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's and the thing is how do you teach your children to discern if you're making the choices for them? And look, as I said, my kids have eaten some dirt. They've eaten some crap. They have experienced pain. They've engaged in relationships and choices that, as a mom, I'm like, and I'm like, yep, baby, you do you. I'll be here when you hate this because you going to, but I don't say it because how can they understand what feels right for them until they go through experiences that do not feel right for them? Just like you were saying, Yanko, the pendulum switches here. You come here, then you're like, oh, wait, I forgot how that feels. You come here and you're like, nope, tapped out. I'm going back to here. This feels better. Kids need that too. They just do. And the more we as adults empower the youth to really be able to make those choices. I'm not saying let them burn themselves on the stove, right? But I'll certainly bring something hot close enough to them where they can feel the heat and say, hey, if you touch this, you're going to get boo-boo. But it's giving them that ability to really be able to make choices, even if we know it's going to hurt. They're going to feel pain because of that choice.
Right.
Yeah.
And that never goes away. Like I see it with, with my parents. Like, I would like to think that I'm old enough for them to like give me an advice, but when they do, I know where this is coming from because now I'm a parent too myself.
Right.
But sometimes I gotta tell him, I have to go through this because I need it for me. Like I need to learn. I want to see where this is gonna go. Like even so, this is your experience, and you like to tell me that. I want to see where this is gonna go.
The thing about sharing experiences and for me working with clients, as they grow, I grow.
Hmm.
Right? It's constant. Right. I mean, I started to write, and there's so many posts that I've written, guys, that I've not put out there because you wouldn't understand. So I've written them because right,
You
right.
want to understand?
It's like, yeah, no, don't do this, Gail. Um, but one of the things that I wrote, kind of like a diary, is about the fact that I'm changing so fast that I can't even tell you about the change I'm going through because it's already changed. Right. And again, back to your point, Kerri, about it's conscience, consciousness. It's the consciousness before we
Embody
put a
it.
picture to it. So we
Yep.
put a picture, we've already changed it. We put words to it, we've already changed it. We speak it, it's gone through all of those emotions and those filters and those beliefs, we have already changed it. You receive it through that. It's never the original, right? But when I get to act on that impulse before I even understand what's going on, because I just know, magic happens.
Yep.
Even if it makes no sense and I trust, this is self trust, right? It is amazing what comes out. I work with, still work with business people. I work with entrepreneurs all the time, and something will come out of my mouth. Kerri, you got to see it. You know, when I named our program, what we're going to do, and I put together, these are our random thoughts. It's just like, bleh. Okay, sure, that looks good. Kerri, what do you think? And you're like, perfect. Right? Because I didn't try to make sense out of it. I just did it. And that's, you know, when my clients start to trust themselves that much, their life changes, right? Yanko, you know, your experience, your near-death experience, and you're finally accepting of who you are and what's going on, took a while for you to give yourself permission to trust.
Right. It takes a while to embody the learning, or to like ground it, or even to take it, because like um the personality will struggle to make a sense of like what's going on. So sometimes, yeah. And this is why people don't think they're growing, because they don't see what they expect to see. But you go up, then it takes a little bit of flat time to embody what you like went in, and to get kind of comfy. Then you go up again, and in to our perception, it looks like there's nothing going on. It's like I feel like I'm still the same, but I'm in a way I'm not. So, yeah.
Speaking of expectations, people, which I'm not a fan of, but rumor has it that Yanko is going to DR and will be out of service next week. And I hear that I have this another amazing co-host, Gail Kraft, who might be tapping in to play with me. And we may have an additional guest. I have not confirmed, but somebody seemed interested. So we will see how that goes. But that's what I would encourage all of you guys to do is not, expectation in my experience creates suffering, because nothing is going to work out the way in which we think it should work out. And yet, whenever I release that expectation, it works out exactly the way it's meant to. And so that's the advice I'd like to leave you with. With 2 minutes to our show ends, do you two lovelies have any imparting wisdom you'd like to share with this beautiful community?
Well, I'll tap in and then let Yanko wrap up. So I love the expectations. Whenever I have someone who has relationship issues, that's what we focus on. Expressed or unexpressed. Expectations are, you're assuming something and you're looking for something from someone else versus finding it inside. So back to Yanko, if you don't find it within, don't expect it from without. It's got to come from within. And then when you model it, your energy magnetically pulls it towards you.
Yep.
So that's what I
and
would leave
and
you with.
and that's exactly like something watch Bashar say. It's like seeing yourself in the reflection in the mirror, frowning on the other side, and saying, "I'm gonna smile when you smile," and that's never gonna happen.
Oh, that is so good. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
just like,
smile when you smile.
yeah, like looking at your reflection outside and saying, "I'm gonna smile when you smile," and that never gonna happen until you smile inside. So
Love it.
I would like to
Ah,
leave you with that.
so good. All right, guys, until next week, show up in curiosity, in love, and give yourself permission to do things the way that feels good for you, because at the end of the day, it's your experience you're responsible for.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, follow, share, subscribe. Get other people involved. Make the
Make some
algorithm
comments.
like it. Yeah, and get in touch with us. We love you all. Until